Okay, so you did it. You made something incredible. A film, a podcast, a new series, whatever it is. You've poured your heart and soul into it. But now comes the really tough part, right? Finding the people who are actually going to love it. It's probably the biggest challenge any creator faces, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today.
So let's just dive right in with the single most important question you can ask yourself. Who is your audience? And I'm not talking about some vague, general group of people. I mean, who is that one person, that specific individual you're making this for?
And here's a little hint, and it's probably the biggest mistake most of us creators make right out of the gate. The answer is never ever everyone. Seriously. When you try to make something for everybody, you usually end up making something for nobody. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to completely bust the myth of the general audience. Then we'll get into the good stuff. How to find your one true superfan using 4 critical questions. We'll even look at a real-world example to see how it works. And finally, we'll talk about how to turn that one fan into an entire network.
All right, first things first, we have to talk about this massive trap that so many of us fall into. It's the myth of the general audience. I get it. It sounds amazing. You want everyone to see your work. But chasing that huge, faceless crowd is actually a huge mistake.
So you've got the wrong way, and you've got the smart way. The wrong way is thinking about this giant general audience. The smart way, well, it's about focusing on just one person, an individual. It's a total shift in thinking, from broadcasting to a crowd to having a conversation with one person.
You know, this quote just nails it. There's no such thing as a general audience anymore. It just doesn't exist. What we have now are thousands of little niches, tons of passionate communities. Your job isn't to boil the entire ocean, it's to find your perfect little pond and make a huge splash there.
Okay, so if we're not supposed to think big and chase this giant audience, what do we do instead? Well, you do something that feels totally counterintuitive at first. You've got to think small, like really, really small. We're talking about one single person.
And that one person is what we call your super fan. This isn't just some random person who stumbles across your work. No, this is the ideal person who just gets it. They connect with your message on a deep level, and most importantly, they're going to be the one who goes out and tells all their friends, you have got to see this.
This is the key. This is the big mindset shift. Stop thinking about standing on a stage talking to thousands of people in a stadium. Instead, I want you to picture one person sitting in their living room, totally captivated by what you've created. That's who you're talking to. Just them.
Okay, theory is great, but how do you actually find this person? Like, where do you even start? Well, you need a toolkit. And this toolkit is built around 4 really critical questions.
Think of yourself as a detective building a profile of a person of interest. We're going to look at 4 key areas. First, the basic facts, demographics. Then, what's going on inside their head, psychographics, where they physically are in the world. And finally, where they hang out online.
So let's start with demographics. These are the basic nuts and bolts facts about your person. You know, things like their age, their job, how much they make. This stuff might seem a little dry, but it's super important. It gives you the basic sketch, the foundation that you're going to build everything else on top of.
Now, if demographics are the what, then psychographics are the why. And honestly, this is where the magic happens. This is about their inner world. What are they passionate about? What are their values, their dreams, their fears? This is what turns that basic sketch into a real 3-dimensional human being you can actually connect with.
All right, let's pull this out of the world of theory and see how it works in practice. I want to tell you about a filmmaker who was in this exact situation, trying to find their audience. And they used this exact method of making a hypothesis and then testing it out.
So, they started with a guess. Hypothesis number 1. Their film was for donor-conceived families. They reached out, had some conversations, but nope, it just wasn't the right fit. So, they pivoted. Okay, what about marriage therapists? They talked to some, wrong again. So they tried a third time. What about people who are super into genealogy and DNA testing? They went to a conference and bam, bullseye. They found their people.
And what that filmmaker did is the perfect example of the process. It's this simple, beautiful loop. You make an educated guess, a hypothesis, then, and this is the important part, you actually go talk to those people. You listen to what they have to say. And if you're wrong, you don't give up, you just pivot and you try again. It's a process of discovery.
Now, here's the really cool part. Finding that one super fan, that's not the finish line.
That's just the starting block, because that one person is your gateway to an entire community of people who are just like them.
See, your superfan doesn't live in a bubble. They belong to groups, they follow certain influencers, they listen to specific podcasts, and read certain blogs. These are the connectors. These are the nodes in their network that you need to identify.
And the most practical thing you can do right now is open up a spreadsheet. Seriously, and you're going to build what's called a leads list. This is where you map out that whole world your superfan lives in, every organization, every influencer, every podcast. This spreadsheet becomes your roadmap to reaching them.
Because your superfans are just the entry point. Once you know who they are, the goal is to saturate their network. You want to show up in all the places they already trust. That is how you take this strategy of thinking small and use it to get massive, meaningful reach.
So there it is, the strategy, the toolkit, everything you need to stop just shouting into the void and start connecting with the people who are actually waiting to hear what you have to say. You know how to find them now. So the question isn't who is your audience anymore. The real question is, what are you going to create that will blow their minds?